un peu ce qu'on vit aujourd'hui, quoi. Depuis ce matin, c'est comme ça.
Et voilà, le poteau noir, c'est tout gris, il pleut, et au moins ça permet de prendre une douche.
Un ciel gris, des grains, une mer de face, une houle de face qui ne facilite pas la progression.
Mais bon, je préférerais avancer un peu plus vite pour sortir de là rapidement. C'est pas gagné cette histoire. Hein.
Dear wind god, send me some wind. Now, here to the boat. Wind, proper wind.
Well, there we go, starting with life in the doldrums. It is Monday the 18th of January, it's day 71 on the racecourse, and it is in fact officially Blue Monday. And what a more appropriate time to be going through the doldrums. Well, the three leaders really are starting to come out of the doldrums. They're making good speeds, but there are still 2 or 3 boats who are struggling. In the meantime, Louis Burton is doing 18.5 knots, so he's clearly out. And Charlie Dallin's doing 15 knots. He's slightly further to the east. It's very hard to interpret the rankings just now because the closer you are to the east, which is a direct route to the finish, the better the ranking is. So how to interpret the rankings? Well, my guest today is, or one of my guests today is Simon Fisher, the navigator of the 11th Hour racing team, and a Volvo Ocean Race winning navigator. We'll speak to Sci-Fi in just 1 second. My other guest is an ex-mini sailor. We're doing a little mini focus today, mini 650 focus, because I think 18 of the skippers in the Vendée Globe fleet are ex-mini racers, and some of them were very, very successful in the class, including Charlie Dallin, who was second in the Mini Transat in 2009, and we're going to hopefully connect up with Charlie. But we have a Nick Bubb, who is an ex-mini sailor and also an ocean racer in his own right, an adventurer. Nick, how are you? It's nice to see you not sleeping at the side of the road.
Hi Andy, thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, nowadays I'm much more of a fan of solo sailing than a competitor, but yeah, still, I mean, my kind of enthusiasm for the sport's completely undiminished. I'm loving this race. It's been the most incredible edition.
Good, well that's great, Nick, because we have one of your ex-co-skippers on with us, Charlie Dallin, leader of the Vendée Globe. Charlie, how are you? Oh. I think we have Charlie Dallin on board Apivia. Charlie, how are you? No, I think he's just disappeared. Let's go back to Nick. Nick, tell us about sailing with Charlie then in the old days.
I mean, Charlie, back in 2002-03, you know, he was a youngster on the scene, and he was, I guess, you know, you'd say that the nipper, just helping anyone out, trying to get a ride on the boats. You know, we did a 4 or 5 day delivery together, and I let him be the skipper in return of him teaching me French. And, you know, he's continued in that same vein, I think, learning off kind of anyone and everyone he can. And yeah, you know, he's just sort of fantastic. And I think he was probably in the mini scene maybe 4 or 5 years before he actually got his own boat.
But I mean, he comes from a family who were not a sailing family. I love the idea of him wandering around the docks during the period pre-start for the Transat Jacques Vabre, and just, I think that's where the dream started for Charlie, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, up in Le Havre, where he grew up. Obviously, there's a big scene there with the TJV, and you know, Charlie's been involved in so many different campaigns. It's helped me with my mini stuff, class 40s. You know, he's been involved in miles in the mini. You know, not only, you mentioned he came second in the Transat in 2009, but you know, he won the big transatlantic leg. It's in an old boat, and then he won the massive sponsorship scheme in the Figaro. And you know, I think he probably is, I would say, arguably one of the most consistent Figaro sailors ever. He never quite managed to win the Solitaire, which is the big event, and I'm sure that sort of experience will be driving him on now to, you know, to try and win the Vendée, which would obviously be the ultimate in solo sailing.
I think we do have Charlie now on board PVA, not the greatest of connections, but Charlie, how are you?
Hi Andy, hi Nick. It's a great pleasure to hear Nick on the line. Nick is a great, good friend, a very good friend of mine, and yeah, I'm really happy to hear his voice. a good surprise for me. So yeah, everything is good. I left the doldrums last night, late last night, and going into North Italy, steady breeze, steady-ish breeze, shall I say. And it's smoother ride than I thought. The sea stage is not so bad. But the wind strength is fairly stable. I still have quite a lot of squalls around me, but they should clear up in the 2 hours. But yeah, all good. We're about to do like a big curve in the North Atlantic to sail around this high pressure. So yeah, it's all about finding the right angle to reach the high pressure at the right point.
So what's your strategy there? What's your evaluation versus what Louis Burton is doing just now?
I wouldn't be too comfortable if I was in his place and I had someone where I am. if you see what I mean. So I'm fairly happy with my positioning. Obviously, no one really know how it will pan out. It all depends on the side pressure, where it positions itself in few days. So that will be the deciding factor. But I'm happy to be east of Louis. And yeah, it's about finding the right angle and going fast. That's the theme of the next days.
So, Charlie, tell us about your early days in the mini fleet. That was your formative years, really, and that was when you knew Nick.
Yeah, I met Nick once in a while now. In 2003, in a race. First time we went, I was in a race to from Antibes, France to Tunisia. And he just launched a boat he built himself. And yeah, and we since then we did a lot of projects together. I helped him to build a Class 40 for the Route 2006 Route de Rome. He did a mini fastnet with me.
Hopefully Charlie will come back for us, but just describing his early days in the Mini when he sailed with Nick and helped him to build a Class 40. Hopefully we'll get Charlie back in just 1 second. Charlie, let Nick have a word with you.
Yes.
Go ahead, Nick.
Hi, Charlie. Congratulations.
Hey, Nick.
Congratulations, Charlie, on a phenomenal performance so far. We're all so proud of you, but not surprised. And we know that, this last week, big push from you, and it's all there for the taking.
Thank you, Nick. It's great to hear from you. I didn't know you were the guest today, so it's a really good surprise. And yeah, thank you for your support. I know you're supporting me all the way. And yeah, it feels good. And yeah, I really hope you. I know you tried to come down to the start. That was be able to get better.
It's okay.
And yeah, thank you. I'm you know me. I'm on it. I'm on the sail trim. I'm on the sail changes. I'm working as hard as I can to make as much ground as I can and to find the right path to the tab.
Good stuff, Charlie. Now listen, we'll leave you just now. Nick's going to give us lots of embarrassing secrets about you when you were young. But all the best, Charlie. And as Nick says, send it over the next week.
Thank you. Cheers. And
So Charlie Dallin there on board Apivia. Nick, just tell us a little bit more about Charlie. Then you had some pretty heinous conditions with him in the North Atlantic. We were just looking at that image of a very young Charlie Dallin sailing with you on your Mini. Yeah,
Charlie. I mean, actually, he alluded to it just now. He's the kind of guy, even on a delivery, where he's kind of just on it all the time. You know, all he wants to do is go fast, drive, trim. Yeah, from an early age, he had some pretty big experiences. I think this image you've got up is bring back across the Atlantic.
Okay. And I think, hang on just 1 second.
Kind of 40, 50 knots, and kind of, you know, my cars help.
Nick, your connection is not that brilliant just now. We'll try and reconnect with you. But I think we've got Pip here. Hopefully we're going to connect with Pip. Indeed, I can see a face that looks very, very familiar on board Medallia. Pip, how are you?
Hello. I'm better. It's all got a lot better.
Good. You've had some tough times, Pip, haven't you?
Oh my word, yeah. Just this little depression, very, very aggressive. And when I came out of the top of it, you know, I felt my way through it completely in the dark with no instruments. And I thought I was doing really well because I found came out of the top to go north, and the sea state was unbelievable. It was so bad. All I could do was go west to try and minimise the damage. And then literally just before I was supposed to be talking to you yesterday, it slammed off a wave, big slam, this massive cracking sound, and one of my keel lines broke. So yeah, it's been fairly full on.
Indeed, you're looking a little bit more chipper today then. What's the kind of weather situation? You have this semi-stationary cold front to try and get through or round or over.
Yeah, so at the moment, it's looking okay for me because I'm sort of crawling up the eastern side of it very gently. I think I've found a nice place to be. Where I can still make most of the southeasterly flow, which is going easterly. And then I think by this evening, I'm going to be VMG running, and I'll sort of be over the top of that cold front and trying to find my way through a light patch. That's what I'm hoping.
Pip, we're doing a little bit of a focus on the mini class today. What did the mini class bring for you?
The mini, it was a vital step on my way to the Vendée. I started out
Nick.
in the UK racing IRC, with the All-Star, which I think is amazing because, you can race IRC solo in any class of boat at all. So it's a good way to get into solo racing and just sort of the concept of it and all of that sort of thing. But when I moved into the Mini, I was really introduced to the competition and the kind of training and the kind of focus that the French classes deliver to this sport. It's of a real amazing intensity. And I spent best part of 3 years in France. I trained in La Grande Motte. Spent a lot of time going, Steve, what are you doing? And then I trained up in Lorient as well. And that's actually where I met, most of the people that I know that I'm competing against now, I met in mini class. And I think it gave me the discipline that I now have. It gave me, because the class is so big and it's so competitive, it gave me this idea of never giving up, of always trying to find a chance, of always, looking around you at who's around you and trying to make the most of your situation. But also it's a beautiful, friendly, helpful, collaborative class. And I love it. And I still, still in the back of my mind, I think, would I do a third mini Transat? I probably would, I think it's an amazing race.
Now listen, somebody who you know very well, who cut his teeth, and I think when you talk about stamina and self-discipline, he's the very ethos of that, and that's Nick Bubb, who's going to say a quick hello to you. Nick, we have Pip for you.
Hi Pip, how are you getting on? Pip, can you hear me?
Good. It's much better today. We're making some miles to the north.
No, do we hear Pip?
I think we've got a big old delay, haven't we?
Go ahead, Nick.
Hey Pip, just fantastic to see you. We've obviously exchanged a couple of messages during this race, but I really can't tell you how proud everyone is, both people that know you and actually all the fans that you've gathered around the world. You've communicated an amazing story straight from your heart, and I think everybody is willing you on for this last section of the race.
Thank you. It means a lot. And actually, it's been, Nick has been one of the people in the UK that's really sort of given me, I guess, one of the sort of moral backup to keep me going towards the Vendée. I think that there aren't so many people that understand what a difficult journey it is just to get there. Good. And navigating the highs and the lows, and actually it's been really great to be able to have that support.
We're going to have to leave you just now, Pip, and also Nick. We'll catch up with you in a couple of days. Pip, glad to see the smile back on your face. You're doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much, Pip. All the best.
Bye.
So a quick catch up there with the Pip here on Medallia. The smile is back and she's making good progress. Let's have a quick look at our meteo situation. I say it's pretty complicated for the boats coming out of the doldrums, and then we'll come to Simon Fisher, who's going to interpret it for us. Well, a quick run through the fleet in the south of the equator, principally working from the back. Well, Alexia Barry and Ari Husela back here just on the curve of this low pressure system, and so they're in a southwesterly breeze, quite good conditions for them, moderately big seas, but otherwise. Then we move straight forward to Cape Horn. Miranda Merrin, unfortunately, pointing the wrong way. We spoke to her this morning. She's been in the centre, you can see right in the very, very centre of the low pressure system with no wind at all. Beautiful blue skies, cloud all around about her, but no wind. So that's why she's just pointing the wrong way momentarily. Similar situation for Clement Giraud, see, as well, just in towards the centre, and quite light winds. So they are starting to get breeze, and they should be able to move up towards the Falkland Islands, where we see Manu Kuzan at the moment. Now then, further up the track, we're looking at this group here, the group of three, which is Didac Costa, Stefan Lederezong, and down here, the black boat, is Kojira Shiraishi. Now they're kind of upwind and just at the moment, but they have a slightly better situation than Pip here. Pip is getting closer and closer to this semi-stationary cold front, which, remember, that was the kind of coffin corner for Yannick Bestav. And remember, he got caught up here and was slowed there. Now Pip has a minor problem that she needs to be on the other side of the system, and hopefully we'll get across there rather than going too much further into the west. But on the other hand, Jeremy Bayou and Alan Rura and Arnaud Boisset are kind of upwind on the other side of it, and they're in a progressively improving situation. So that's the situation for the fleet in the South Atlantic, really. Now then, let's open up our favourite animation and see how that runs for the... looking at a kind of big picture to start with, before we run it, you'll see this the high pressure ridge, well, it is fairly ridge. This is the Azores anticyclone, the high pressure system. It's quite compacted, and it should be relatively easy to get across, not too difficult as opposed to being a big kind of circular high pressure system quite often is, and quite a bit more difficult to get across around. So that situation, let's roll the animation hopefully. And just watching, you can see, you see Louis Burton here. It's all about the angle and the crossing point for the high pressure system. They're in northeasterly trade wind, about 18 knots. You'll see there's been a little bit of compression perhaps, or the lateral separation will reduce. I think that possibly Louis Burton will continue with an advantage, but it's all going to be a speed race up until this high pressure system. And then we should see them jibe the gull wing situation, then get out. There we go, out to into the train of low pressure systems coming in. So say there we go, just going round the curve of the high pressure system, and then we're watching for this low, and that's when we jibe across and get out to the low pressure system. They'll take us right in the Bay of Biscay into the finish line. So looking quite interesting, Simon Fisher. Then interpret it for us. Who's got the advantage just now, and what's the target?
No, it's an interesting situation. It's quite exciting to watch the fleet in the last few days. The race is really hotting up as we get into the potentially less than 2 weeks of the finish. I think actually Charlie, speaking from on board, and yourself there, summed things up quite nicely. Obviously for Charlie and Louis Burton, they're now sort of into the trade winds, and the complicating factor for them, or the tricky bit for them, is basically they're trying to get their angle for the trade winds, or through the trade winds, to best get through that ridge of high pressure, the sort of the Azores high that's very squashed at the moment, and actually also quite south of the latitude of the Canaries. High pressures can be tricky to forecast, and when they're ridged out like that, you can get multiple centers and what have you. So the angle they have to sail through the trade winds is somewhat dictated by where they're going to go through that high, and that could be changing quite quickly, quite rapidly in the next few days. So it'll be an interesting one. I think Charlie Dannon's in a nice position to windward. It's always nice when you're reaching through the trade winds. If you've got a bit of windward gauge, you can put your bow down and go a bit quicker. The forecast has them in about 18 knots and 80 true wind angles. So certainly being able to sail a little bit lower would mean more boat speed. So the windward position's quite nice in that way.
For the boats just behind, so Boris and Thomas Riong, the two different setups just now. Obviously Riong has got no port foil. Boris is, as I say, I think playing with the full deck.
Yeah. I mean, I think Boris has been quite an interesting one to watch, because we know he's in good shape. He's been quite sort of vocal about looking after his boat in the Southern Ocean in order to sort of do the sprint up the Atlantic. And I mean, we know Pivia's had some foil issues, Linked Out's had some foil issues, and actually Boris is in quite good shape. So it'll be interesting to see how much he can put his foot down. It looks like he's had a tough 24 hours getting through the doldrums, but he's finally sort of getting out of the grip of that, and he's got a really good chance if he can put his foot down and sail really fast for the next few days.
Great, thank you so much, Sci-Fi. Hopefully you'll join us before the finish. It's going to be very, very dynamic, and I think the key, as Sci-Fi saying, through that high pressure system, and then who hooks into the lows coming into the Bay of Biscay. That's, I think, where this race is going to be decided now. Hopefully we have Aleš Gelabert with us, who's going to speak with Didac Costa. Didac's live from on board One Planet, One Ocean, and Didac as well was a big sailor in the mini class before. Aleš, do you have us? Can you join us? You're in Finland, I believe.
Yes, Andy, I can hear you very well.
Oh, and we've got Didac. You connect with Didac then.
Hola, Didac, ¿me oyes?
Yes. Sí, os oigo bien a los dos. Hello, Andy.
¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? ¿Cómo está yendo la subida del Atlántico? ¿Cómo te encuentras?
Bien, relativamente bien. Vamos subiendo a buena velocidad, aunque estamos dando bastantes vueltas para evitar a los sitios pues con menos viento o sitios con demasiado viento, ¿no? Y bueno, ahora ya la temperatura es mucho mejor y ahora haciendo equilibrios para pasar estas borrascas últimas.
Alish.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, Alish, give us a quick an update then, a translation.
Yes, Didac is saying he's in good shape and has a good speed now, but he's trying to look for the places with less wind and trying to sail in the higher pressure winds and going up to north.
Good. Ask him about his days in the Mini. What did that bring for Didac?
Sí, mira, Didac, nos interesaría que nos hablaras un poco de tu trayectoria navegando en Mini Transat, de tus días en el Mini.
Sí, pues bueno, yo me compré un Mini, creo que soy alrededor del año 2008 aproximadamente, y bueno, porque siempre me había traído pues la navegación oceánica, ¿no? Y era la mejor forma pues de empezar, y a partir de ahí pues empecé a hacer regatas en solitario, ¿no? Y descubrir pues este mundo y aprender sobre todo, porque yo había navegado antes pero no había competido, así que bueno, que fue todo un aprendizaje muy interesante. Hasta que en 2011 creo que fue, pues hice la Mini Transat, ¿no? Y fue pues la primera gran travesía así oceánica, ¿no? Pues realmente, bueno, pues para mí ha sido la mejor escuela sin duda, ¿no? Es un barco que es manejable, ¿no? Que es fácil de más o menos de solucionar los problemas, ¿no? que puedan haber, así que es perfecto pues para aprender y para introducirse en este mundo, ¿no?
So Didac started his boat in 2008 and started sailing in Mini Transat. And before that, he was sailing in other boats, but never with this kind of boat. And he did many races before, so he started racing also with the Mini Transat. And he did the Mini Transat finally in 2011. Was his big first oceanic race, and he's very proud of doing that race. But Didac says that for him, the Mini Transat school has been very interesting for him to learn about not only for sailing, also for the skills of and preparation for preparing the boat and all this that you need to know at least as much as possible to be a solo sailor.
And obviously, Didac's very much in touch with the Mini scene in Barcelona. Maybe you could just give us a few words about the Mini scene. There's a grassroots scene in Barcelona now.
Sí, Didac, tú tienes contacto con bastantes ministas de Barcelona. ¿Nos puedes explicar un poco cómo está el panorama de los minis en Barcelona? Si ha crecido, cómo es la base, etcétera.
Sí, ahora mismo hay bastantes...
Oops, just losing Didac momentarily. He's coming back.
I think we lost it.
Anyway, let's leave Didac just now. But Alice, just a quick summary. The Mini scene in Barcelona is pretty active now. You don't have much in the way of AMOCAs, but hopefully that grassroots will grow for the future.
Yes, now lately in the Barcelona, the minis has grown quite a few in the last years. So now with the FNOP base, they have 22 Mini Transats working with them. And 12 of them this year, they are already pre-registered to do the Mini Transat. Is the most people that has been registered for the Spanish fleet to do the Mini Transat. They are very proud of that. And I think 5 of the top 10 in the ranking, the Mediterranean ranking, and are also from Barcelona. And they are organizing a race every year, so in April. So they are quite a bit busy with the Mini Transat fleet in the FNOP these days.
That's great to see, Alice. How's life in Finland?
Cold, but it's fine. It's fine.
Cool. We'll maybe get you to connect with our favourite Finnish skipper, Ari Hasela, at one point. But Aleš, thank you so much for joining us, and my other guests, Simon Fisher and Nick Bubb. My guest tomorrow will be none other than Pierre Casaraghi, the founder of the Milizia racing team and the vice president of the Yacht Club of Monaco. He'll be connecting with us tomorrow, and hopefully with Boris Herman. So any questions on the Vendée Globe, or indeed for him or the team Milizia Yacht Club de Monaco, put them on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram, and we'll see you tomorrow.